Welcome everyone to the 2021 Brower Youth Awards. Thanks so much for joining us for this special celebration. We can't wait for you to meet our 6 awardees. Please settle in for an amazing program as we invite our hosts to the stage. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome everyone to the 2021 Brower Youth Awards. My name is Mona Shamali and I'm the director of the New Leaders Initiative, a year-round leadership program of Earth Island Institute that produces the Brower Youth Awards. Earth Island is a movement support organization that fiscally sponsors over 80 environmental and community projects and change makers all over the world. And now I would like to pass it off to my co-host for this evening, a Brower Youth Award winner from last year.
Hello everyone, my name is Diego Arreola Fernandez. I'm a 19-year-old Mexican environmentalist, educator, and international speaker, and the founder of Green Speaking, which is a nonprofit that aims to educate children and youth on environmentalism and impactful communication. It is a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and I'll pass it again on to Mona.
Thank you, Diego. So here at New Leaders, we believe in growing young people to rise to the highest version of themselves, helping them remove obstacles between them and their dreams, to express their passions and activism through storytelling.
The Brower Youth Awards program provides a unique platform, a cutting-edge and innovative program that trains, coaches, and supports young people to envision and see a possibility for what they want to accomplish in the environmental movement. Each year, the Brower Youth Awards chooses 6 youth from all across North America who have shown outstanding leadership and accomplishment. This year's winners are all leaders in their respective movements.
The theme for the 2021 Brower Youth Awards is Our Power, referring to the unique power of this generation of winners. The definition of power is strength and the ability to act or produce an effect. This year's winners are all leaders who have the strength to mobilize environmental activist movements. Through their activism, they are pushing the culture forward. Their unique power is their ability to create a paradigm shift in a time of environmental peril. This year's Brower Youth Award winners all have their own power, and it is their power that we want to celebrate tonight.
And without further ado, let's go to this year's winners. Youth holds the power to create massive change, to hold governments accountable, and use policy in favor of a brighter future. I present to you an environmental leader that has proven with example that once we realize this power, we are unstoppable. Artist, poet, organizer, and one of this year's Brower Youth awardees. This is Artemisio, Romero, and Carver.
Initially, knowledge about climate change to me was paralyzing. I was educated at a young age. I remember reading scientific papers that I had seen floating around on like the social media sphere that seemed to foretell an apocalypse, but with academic terms. And so that paralyzed me. I felt completely disempowered to prevent this kind of global Holocaust as a teenager without even a high school degree. Then I got invited to a city council meeting, which doesn't seem like a tremendously life-changing event, but I went to that city council meeting and it was on kind of the city equivalent of a Green New Deal support vote. And we went around and I gave my little 1-minute speech about how I'm scared and I need some level of action on any level of government. And I gave my speech, and then another person gave another speech after that, arguing for the same thing. And another person gave another speech, and their speeches often were better than mine, but they were about the same thing. And so when I left that meeting, I found myself surrounded by these peers and by these fellow community members who were just as scared as me, but also had found each other and were wanting to do something.
My name is Artemisio Romero Carver, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Yucca, Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, is an entirely youth-led nonprofit created to hold elected officials accountable to the health of future generations and marginalized communities. As a co-founder and steering committee member, my role has been to plan, direct, and set messaging for all initiatives. As a policy director, I worked to set and achieve our policy goals and maintain and build our relationships with elected officials.
Our 5 major demands have always been about providing new sources of energy, if we're talking about community solar, if we're talking about economy transition, while at the same time acknowledging that the way that we've built our energy infrastructure in this country and arguably across this planet is not sustainable and is in fact lethal.
For young people, the scale of the crisis is very large, and I think there were definitely elders in our communities, other folks in our communities who understand it. But even when I talk to people younger than myself, it's even larger for them, right? I'm scared that I may never be able to live past 50. And I think part of what we have to understand is that climate change is not something that can be dealt with soon. It is something that has to be dealt with now. We talk about goals in the future, right? We talk about carbon neutrality by 2050. We talk about these ideas. And there were bills even in the session that sought to do that. And those are good, valuable things. But I also think that because we talk about these things in big timelines, it becomes easy to comprehend climate change as something that is going to happen and something that will cost. That's not true. It is happening. It has already cost human lives. And action needs to be taken by the time I finish saying this sentence.
I think young people understand climate change in a slightly different way than older generations. To us, it is more often part of the formative part of our lives, right? These huge environmental disasters are happening more often. And for younger people, they're becoming more primary to childhood and early adulthood. I try to maintain hope. And I think that if we want to tell people that our system needs to change, we have to offer them alternatives. If our project is to achieve the goals that we hope it does, if Yucca is to achieve its stated goals, we would hope that our state and our world would end their dependency on extractive industry and the violence and colonialism and murder and health risks associated with extractive industry. So I want to imagine a world where our foundation isn't that kind of evil, where you can turn on the light and you can know that that energy came from the sun, from the wind, and not from the involuntary sacrifice of entire communities. So to be clear, my hope for a better world is the abolition of fossil fuels.
Please join me in welcoming Artemisio to the stage.
Hi, my name is Artemisio Romero Carver. Call me Art. I guess you know that. I've been gifted with the Brower Award for my work as an organizer for Yucca, Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. And our work is to hold politicians accountable for the health of future generations, oppressed communities, and our shared planet. But you've heard me like rant and talk for a pretty decent amount of time already. So I'd like to offer something a little less literal. I'd like to offer a poem. I used to draw maps, big ones with crayons and colored pencils and stencils and all that. I want to choreograph the rivers and arroyos, even when water doesn't. Time flows, apply a timeline to those dear tracks, paint some grandeur on my cadaver of a tree and call that an escape route. I used to draw maps. I thought they were very, truly important. Maybe that's the colonizer in me. Maybe I was just trying to make a portrait. Inside is a scary place. I'ma form a fort with dead twigs, pine cones, blue skies, ozone, red dirt. I don't own my grandpa's bones and sad. I used to draw maps. I'm drawing back, but they draw a match like a gun. They strike it on human beings. Communities are colored the color of kerosene till it's lit bright like the sun. They fan it with words like profit and progress and God-given. You draw lines in the earth like an autopsy, prize in which land and people are worth not wanting. You want a reason to hurt. That's why you draw maps. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to Earth Island for this moment. Thank you to my fellow awardees. And I mean this genuinely. It's not like the award show. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Wow, I don't know what to say about that. That was incredible, Artemisio. That was very inspiring. Congratulations and thank you for being here. Now we are going to go to Austin, Texas. We were in Santa Fe, New Mexico with Artemisio and that incredible poem. Now we're gonna meet our second winner of this year's Broward Youth Awards. And as we all already know, and for those that don't, climate change is happening now, and we are all living and suffering from its devastating effects. And so we need action now. And this winner realized that and used this assertive and incredible combination of education and mobilization to create that action, that immediate action. So I present to you Alexia Leclair.
We know that these kids, these young adults, they're really, really passionate and they want to create change because we're tired of capitalism, we're tired of colonialism, we're tired of oppression, we're tired of environmental racism. And I think it's really important to bring that knowledge and that education to understand how the system works and to just create together, to have that space for radical conversations, to provide the tools and the skills necessary to teach them how to organize their communities and fight for that change.
Start Empowerment is a social environmental justice education nonprofit, and our goal is to bridge the gap between education and community organizing and to empower youth to take action. I research environmental education programs, however, none of them were centered around justice or the experience of people of color. I wanted other youth to learn from generations of activists who have studied systems of oppression and community organizing as means to enact change. U.S. education continues to erase the stories of marginalized communities, forcing students to navigate a world that instills shame around their identities. These students are taught to attribute their struggles to individual failures. They are never taught about the social and environmental injustices that hinder their community.
One of the coolest things about Alexia is that Alexia is a leader. They use their grassroots experience and knowledge to inform the decision-making behind Start Empowerment's strategic efforts in terms of helping to support organizers and to support movement building.
As a young person, as a person of color, there's a lot of people that underestimate you. It's hard to get funding for this type of work, especially since we don't want to prioritize what foundations might want, what institutions might want. We really want to give, true radical education to the people. It's definitely been a challenging journey. We've met people who are like, what do you mean you're talking about alternative types of economies that prioritize the people? Or like people who say we don't have to make this all about race. But no, the truth is skin color is the #1 determinant of how much pollution you live next to. So it is important to talk about these conversations that aren't easy, that aren't comfortable.
Start Empowerment works with schools across the U.S. to provide environmental justice curricula and funding for youth-led project and community-centered programming. We created a comprehensive food justice curriculum. I was selected to present the research at the CUNY Environmental Education Conference and then was awarded $6,800 by National Geographic in 2000 from the Abolition Teaching Network to implement these food justice curriculums in New York City. And this curriculum was featured by the New York City Department of Education and the New York City Sustainability Office. I centered justice and community when teaching about sustainability and various environmental topics ranging from green buildings to food justice and pesticide. I really believe that education needs to give the students the skills, tools, and vocabulary to describe their life experiences and to apply that to create change. It's important to consider the social and emotional needs of the students and ground the topic in the classroom in the context of real-life scenarios happening in the community.
I would like to thank Alexia Leclair for her curriculum and program development. She created the curriculum on abolition, capitalism, and environmental justice. She has expanded the knowledge for our youth. Thank you, Alexia.
I think we just, want to stay true to our radical revolutionary roots, and these are big things. I hope for land back, I hope for abolition, I hope really for a world where we prioritize taking care of each other and the well-being of everyone.
Yes, Alexia, that was amazing. Please join me in welcoming Alexia to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be receiving this award for my environmental justice activism with Start Empowerment. You know, as we know, the climate crisis is one of the biggest issues facing us today and tomorrow. It is an issue that intersects with other social justice issues, from workers' rights to food justice to police brutality and imperialism and more. However, in the classroom, it's often taught as an issue that's going to happen in the future and one that's most impacting polar bears and pandas. And while I really love a fluffy bear as much as the next person, we aren't talking enough about the communities of color that are living next to toxic waste site or electronic waste dumped from Ghana to China, and indigenous land defenders from so-called Minnesota to Colombia to the Philippines being murdered. And when it came to addressing pollution, I was told to recycle at school, but recycling did nothing to stop the summer typhoons or the week-long stay-at-home warning from air pollution or heat waves, acid rain, or even the winter freeze that happened this year in Texas. Nobody talked about the 97% of waste that was produced in the US, and that is by industry, or the four corporations that are responsible for 7.3 million metric tons of plastic waste. No one was talking about the ways in which the climate crisis is one of the political economy driven by capitalism and colonialism and the constant extraction of land and labor to accumulate wealth at the expense of nature, at the expense of people of color, at the expense of low-income communities. And that is why I started Start Empowerment in 2019 with my friend Kier. We want to be able to provide environmental justice education to reshape our connection to the land, living beings, community, and to reconnect with our cultures and bridge the gap between education and action. And since then, I've had the honor to grow and work with incredible teachers, students, educators, organizers, artists, and more. So I'm so honored to be recognized alongside such amazing youth. And I want to say thank you to my family, to Amitofo, to everyone, all the elders who have fought for justice, to Poder for teaching me about organizing, to everyone at Start Empowerment, my co-founder, all the staff and volunteers and partners for believing in me and our goal, and also to Earth Island Institute for this award, for the mentorship and to the opportunity to connect with this cohort. Lastly, I want to recognize that movements are not about individuals, but about community, because in community we hold power. So let's continue to serve one another and to fight for environmental justice. Thank you.
Alexia, thank you. Amazing work. I couldn't agree more with all your words. I'm also very passionate about environmental justice. And we definitely need more people like you, more leaders like you, and we need your curriculum in Mexico too. I'm currently in Canada, so we also need it in Canada and the entire world. And now we're gonna fly all the way to Princeton, New Jersey, to meet the third winner. Her name is Sonia Michelock, and she has used this combination of science and inspirational movement to create amazing change in favor of aquatic, terrestrial, and biodiversity movement. So without further ado, let's take a look at her project.
Now it's time to welcome my special guest, Sonia Mitchelluck. Sonia, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today. So my experiment was looking at the larval chironomid. Chironomidae are a type of macroinvertebrate in family Diptera. In my years of waterway health assessment, I noticed that they were a common denominator across 13 sites that I had been looking at. And this really interested me, so at one point I actually laid them out on my lab bench. I have a small lab I built in my basement. These are non-biting midges. They don't bite. However, they are everywhere. They are a very ubiquitous creature. They are found on every continent. There actually are an estimated over 10,000 species in this family. I developed a proposal to build and lead a microbiology lab for DNA analysis. To make vision a reality, I specified capital equipment and demonstrated the technological potential. I wrote grants, met with sponsors, and built relationships across organizations such as the NIH, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and GeneWiz. I believe that clean water and access to green spaces are a fundamental right for everyone. In our society, we have very strong incentives for people to extract and develop natural resources. This is great for our economy, but needs a counterbalance to avoid what has become known as the tragedy of the commons, where individual self-interest unfortunately leads to less than optimal management of common natural resources.
Our population is relying more on surface water for drinking. Accurate data is important for managing our water resources. I developed a method that leverages the power of DNA barcoding and shows promise to be the world's first global bioassessment standard. My method of DNA barcoding larval Chironomid genera will help to manage our freshwater resources by capturing the cumulative effects of any stressor.
You discovered a way to monitor the health of the waterway almost by just seeing what species of these midges are predominant.
The biological health of a stream is a reflection of all other factors thrusted upon it. So any ecological factors, geological factors, chemical factors, even like weather, it's all going to be a reflection of that.
I worked with Sonia on an effort to preserve some environmentally sensitive headwaters that were on the Princeton Ridge. Sonia's research and dedication was critical to our effort. It brought kind of an academic and analytical element to our preservation effort that we hadn't had prior to her joining our team. I was very lucky to have her, and ultimately her data proved to be the critical linchpin to our success.
The World Economic Forum calls scarcity of fresh water one of the largest risks our global population faces in the coming decade. 2.7 billion people experience water scarcity at least once per year, leaving us more dependent on surface water for drinking. This requires more filtration infrastructure and more monitoring of surface water sources. It is important that we are all well aware that climate change is happening around us and how we are contributing to it. Of great concern is the frequency of hearing that science is an ideology rather than a process. Without using data for informed decision-making, we will struggle to create a coherent structure of public policy that balances the needs and desires of the present with the costs and consequences of ourselves and future generations. We cannot afford to let the economic and political interests of the moment outweigh the needs of the future. DNA barcoding of Chironomidae at the genus level can be a new global standard method for more accurate and more precise waterway health measurement, also with higher statistical power. It can improve how we manage an increasingly scarce water resource. On behalf of our younger generations, I beseech and implore our world leaders to rise to the challenge of these environmental issues. Stop climate change before it's too late. The youth of the world will remember your visionary leadership.
Wonderful, Sonia. Thank you so much. Please join me in welcoming Sonia to the stage.
Hello, I'm Sonia Mitchelluck. I am deeply honored to be here for my Conservation Communities Initiative, which includes my genetics bioassessment method and water monitoring microbiology lab extension. This allows communities worldwide to make informed environmental decisions and manage and preserve the wetland ecosystems that are a valuable drinking water source. I would like to congratulate the other 5 awardees. I am so proud to be included in this group of dedicated individuals and activists. By 6, my childhood stream splashing took a professional turn, and I began volunteer water monitoring. Carefully, I plucked wiggling worms, moving midges, dancing damselflies, and squirming simulids from the net. Peering through a microscope, paging through taxonomy books, I was pleasantly lost in this microecosystem. My quest for protecting life without a voice led me to explore with an ethnobotanist when I was 8, learning deep connections between our society, plants and animals, and the ecosystems in which we live. In areas that I had walked by countless times, I suddenly saw safe corridors for animals and headwaters to public drinking water sources, so much that we simply do not see. As I learned about the creatures at the base of the food web, I started to see impacts of human activities. I noticed a decrease in biodiversity, spotting dead clams and frogs. Witnessing the decline of a once pristine place that I had known at a young age had a very strong impact on me. I was inspired to make a difference. I began a myriad of endeavors, researching stormwater runoff, developing devices for monitoring stream health, creating a database, and a mathematical model. I created educational curriculums on everything from bioassessment to bivalves and ran programs across several states, reaching thousands. When I was 10, one of the last undeveloped glades in a nearby ridge was targeted for a natural gas pipeline. I researched and learned about the potential for ecosystem harm. This launched me into public meetings as an advocate for wetlands. After registering to speak at a public hearing with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I trembled with fear waiting for my turn at the podium. Picturing my favorite salamanders with their gentle gazing eyes, I managed to stay calm. Facing down this fear was inspirational, and I was told, "This room was so full of opinions, you were the only one who brought data." So I learned early how scientific data makes an impact, and was glowing inside after hearing my efforts made a difference. They tunneled under the stream and worked in the existing 55 feet right-of-way. This preserved over 100 trees at just one site. Just think of all that carbon sequestration. Working as an environmental advocate, you quickly learn that not everyone is on your side. "I'm not listening," were the words of the zoning board chair. I had led careful preparations of statistics and heavily researched facts, all stopped by this intractable bureaucratic barrier. However, the community was behind the data. Students, professors, financial analysts, ecologists, lawyers. Community involvement prevailed. Acres of wetlands were preserved. Working to identify over 10,000 benthic macroinvertebrates and being active in the Society for Freshwater Science and the Entomological Society of America, I began to see the limitations of bioassessment methods. I set out to adapt precise genetic techniques and develop a new bioassessment method, one that helps us to understand and manage our freshwater resources with increased accuracy, precision, and statistical power. From there, I founded a microbiology lab called GEMS, or Genetics Entomological Monitoring Station. GEMS makes genetics technology accessible, allowing communities to understand and manage surface water quality and ecosystem changes, informing better land use and policy decisions. I want to pause to most sincerely thank my mentor for over a decade, my compass, Dr. Patricia Shanley, my workshop attendees and my students who spend hours in the field, everyone at the Watershed Institute, Dr. Maggie Braun and Dr. Edmund Russell at Carnegie Mellon University. I am so appreciative of the New Leaders Initiative and the Earth Island Institute. These individuals nurtured my belief that access to clean water and green spaces are a fundamental right. We have strong incentives to extract and develop natural resources. This is great for our economy in the short term, but needs a counterbalance to avoid the tragedy of the commons, where individual self-interest leads to poor management of shared natural resources. Cost of restoring ecosystems can be orders of magnitude greater than the profits from exploiting them. We need data and science to be the language of the debate on managing natural resources. I envision communities engaged in stewarding ecosystems, protecting drinking water sources, so their benefits are available to everyone, even the salamanders.
Thank you very much for that, Sonia. That was very beautiful, and your project is amazing. As Dave put it in the chat, we need more science-based activists like you. The world needs it, and we need more voices with all the facts and with all the real data of what's happening, and therefore what we can do about it towards positive change. Before we continue to the next winner, I want to tell you that we are halfway through. So first of all, thank you so much to the 173 people that have stayed with us so far. It's a privilege having you here. And also I want to acknowledge some of the past Broward Youth Awards that are in the audience, between them also Alexandra Collins from last year and all the other Broward Youth awardees. It is really beautiful and inspirational to see how we all stay together as a community, supporting each other. And speaking of that community, I definitely believe that we need to support communities like these. And that is why also I want to ask you all to give tonight. The Broward Youth Awards empowers change makers, just like you have seen in Artemisio, Alexia, and Sonia's projects. The Broward Youth Award program helps them elevate their endeavors and generate a greater positive change. And by supporting the New Leaders Initiative, you are also forming part of this magnificent change in the world. That is why we kindly ask for your support to make more projects like these flourish, while uplifting more environmental leaders across North America. Together we can make our future better and brighter. So I think you should be seeing in the slide there, you can go to ei.org/give BYA, that stands for Broward Youth Awards, to donate and help projects like these flourish and expand to the entire world. And so, without further ado, we fly again to the south, to San Jose, California, to connect with the fourth 2021 Broward Youth Awardee, an exceptional leader, defender of both environmental and social justice, that when you pay more attention are closely related, who has achieved great progress in the transit sector in terms of both environmental and fair regulations. Meet Peter Pham.
I think as young people, we have a larger stake in the direction of our society because we will be the ones who live the longest. We have a very strong and enthusiastic voice that I think people who have been in the system and the process much longer do not otherwise have. So my project is called Turnout for Transit. It is a campaign to improve transit in Santa Clara County. It's led by a coalition of different youth and other community-based organizations with the intention of improving our transit infrastructures in our county so that we create a much more sustainable future while also increasing access to opportunities and alleviating stress-inducing traffic congestion.
Turnout for Transit is a coalition of young environmentalists, labor unions, and community-based organizations. I help high school and college peers become stronger advocates for our planet. Together, we run pressure campaigns during public meetings to call for transit-friendly policy and engage with elected officials one-on-one to sort through questions and disagreements.
One of the big challenges in any really urban area is the access to opportunities. And so we have a lot of youths that come from certain areas or districts that have been historically underfunded, and students who come from areas who are much more well-resourced. And so by increasing our transit infrastructures, we provide a very affordable way for young people from all across the county to access all sorts of opportunities, whether that is recreational, educational, or enrichment opportunities, and that will hopefully equal the playing field for all of our youths to succeed, but also give them more opportunities to pursue their careers and go further in whatever it is they want to pursue. I think the first instance of how I got involved in transit work was taking transit myself. So in high school, I wanted to take community college classes, but that was a 2-hour bus ride away, and my parents couldn't drive me there because they were always busy with work. And so that was a motivating factor for me to want to improve transit in the long run. Historically, where I come from, the city of San Jose and the whole county has pursued a policy package of building more highways and building a society surrounded by the car. And it's really a challenge to, as young people who, in the eyes of adults who may not have enough experience, to try to listen to us and to understand that we want to move towards a more green, eco-friendly, transit-driven society. And that's been a real challenge in terms of trying to find the political will, trying to nurture the political will, and ultimately trying to push that will to do something. The transportation sector is one of the leading causes of carbon emissions on the planet. As I continue in my career and my work, and I hope that we can make our society a better place. There's so many challenges that we have facing us, but I'm hoping that we can continue finding common ground, continue to work together, and ultimately building a much more better society for our peers, our families, and our communities.
Wonderful, Peter. Please, everyone join me in welcoming Peter to the stage.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Peter. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much for this amazing award. As much as I am receiving it, I want to acknowledge and celebrate that this effort has been and continues to be a team effort. With climate change affecting every single one of us, it is important that we rise to the challenge together and develop solutions that can achieve a broad enough consensus to weather short-term changes in public attitude, electoral outcomes, and legal challenges. While I am receiving this recognition for fighting to improve public transit in my home region, I could have not succeeded in these policy outcomes that affect the region's 8 million residents without the high school and college students that provide a fresh voice to our public discussions. Without these youths entrusting me to be one of their leaders, my efforts would have been futile as one person. More importantly, our voices could not have been effectively translated into substantive legislative outcomes without the elected officials who heard us and advocated on behalf of us as their constituents. We would not be here without our friends in environmental groups that have helped amplify public transit as a tool to fight climate change. We would not be here without our friends, the community-based nonprofits that remain rooted in the needs of the communities that they serve, and to inform the public policy proposals that we will work on, that will work for the benefits of everyone. We also would not be here without our friends in the various associations that have the infrastructures needed for sustainable long-term change. More personally, I want to thank my good friend, Monica Mallon, who has been in this fight even before I joined. And she has been a tireless leader who will forever be in the Hall of Fame of transit leaders in our region. In short, what I'm trying to say is that the fight for better public transit to fight climate change in the San Francisco Bay Area is a team effort. And this project is just one ripple in the larger tsunami that is our fight against climate change. I hope you all will join in on this global team effort. And thank you, Earth Island, for providing this platform to share this effort and being part of the team. Thank you.
Bravo, Peter, bravo. And thank you for proving us with example that we can have projects, we can have actions, have movements that combat a lot of problems with a single solution. And now I want to talk about science. And I definitely believe that one of the best applications of science is taking informed decisions with it, making informed decisions with it. And it's thanks to people like Sonia, like the winner that you're about to meet, that we started to notice the changes in temperature, in global temperature, the effects of greenhouse gases, and therefore we were able to create solutions to those problems. So we need that science in order to create change. This winner is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And has an amazing project that combines science with education as well, in order to inspire more people to create change. Meet David Baldwin.
We all have a nerd in each of us. There is something we are overly excited about, and it's what we call our passion. It's the thing that keeps us motivated, happy, and intrigued. Growing up, my father would take me out into the sawgrass marshes of the Everglades one day and the cypress swamps the next, building my appreciation for ecology. My name is David Baldwin, and I'm from South Florida. I had come to the realization that I wanted to be an environmental scientist and go on the path of sustainability as a career. And I emailed a professor at a local university. I asked if there were any research positions available for high school students. So Dr. Brian Scooter let me into his lab to be a research assistant. My research was the catalyst for me to start the Invasive Species Awareness and Removal Program with the Everglades Restoration Ambassadors, also known as the ER Ambassadors. I studied Caesar's weed, an invasive plant in South Florida. From that research internship, I brought what I learned to the nonprofit, the Everglades Restoration Ambassadors. What I learned from there of invasive plants, how to remove them, how they spread across South Florida, I modeled it into a way to be taught to elementary school students. And even further than that, how to teach it to the average person on the street, and how every single person can help in the fight of invasive plants. This program promoted the education of elementary school students on environmental science, and particularly invasive species, as well as some hands-on restoration of Florida ecosystems through invasive plant removal. The creation of my educational module designed to show how invasive plants spread across Florida easily educates these students on how the natural processes occur, and even better, what they can do to take action and help.
Over the past 3 years, 2018, 19, and 20, in the summers, I've been very fortunate to have David Baldwin working in my lab. He came to me as a high school student, and he was a very curious person, and he volunteered in the lab all 3 summers. He was always interested in environmental science to some aspect, and he always applied that to the research he did in my lab.
A huge part of my project was teaching all these young kids to join the fight. I want to continue to inspire young scientists to be innovators and trailblazers and make this world a better place with us. In fields that make them passionate, they too can be like me and like all my colleagues. See how there are no more saw palmettos here compared to everywhere else. It's just kudzu. And that's why we need to get rid of them.
Wonderful. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming David to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Baldwin. The day after I returned from a 3-week-long backpacking trip is when I got an email from the lovely Mona Shamali letting me know that I had been seen. I was recognized, heard, and understood. It was an overwhelming feeling, and one I'm honored to be perceived in such a truly amazing way. With this award, after a long, trying journey of getting my internship, hours upon hours of germinating seeds, even more hours at my computer, and somehow I found time for even more hours to spend out in this little thing we call nature, whatever that word means to you. Through my research, I discovered the ideal germination conditions for this Florida invasive plant called Caesar's weed. Simply put, it likes hot temperatures around the 300 degrees Celsius range that occur with wildfires, and a sandy soil type that weakens its protective shell. I'm not one to sit still. Even as I sit here right now speaking, my leg is bouncing. So I had to keep moving, even when what I had sought out to do was done, and incorporate this work into something bigger. I'd been a part of the Everglades Restoration Ambassadors and knew I could make big waves utilizing my knowledge there to share it with young students. And when our world shut down and a wet lab wasn't possible, I moved to the theoretical and pondered what novel ways we can manage that thing called nature. So I'm here today speaking to all of you because I have something to say and the credibility to say it. Our generation is in quite a predicament in regards to our climate. But together, with the 6 of us here to lead the way as best we can, I am more hopeful than ever for our future and for our generations to come. What is so powerful about the youth of today is, in my generation specifically, is our tenacity, scientific minds, and powerful compassion. They are traits I bring to the table along with every one of my colleagues here today, and they inspire me to work as hard as I do to save this planet. As I have experienced, these traits are so often not appreciated by so many people, and us young activists and trailblazers are left denigrated. That is why I am thankful to have found this program and be welcomed into it. It is one that values our generation's talents and passions and sees its potential the way that all of us young people already do. In my work, I have found that young scientists have this fantastical sense of the world, and it is one that should be cherished so deeply. My research is quite a nuanced topic, and its focus on land management introduces countless variables, all that are studied in such depth that, quite honestly, it is a lot. But I know that when I was a kid listening to my father explain DNA replication and evolution, and my mom explain vaccines and medicine, That is what got me interested in science. And I look where that has gotten me. I'm fortunate enough to come from a family of STEM lovers, and I know that's quite a rare thing. So I think bringing science to young elementary school students is quite magical. And with this extra layer that I bring of environmental science, these young, driven scientists, these new ER ambassadors, are already making their mark in the field of conservation, restoration, and sustainability. And as these scientists grow older and make their next move in the scientific community, I'm grateful to know that there is such a strong society like the Earth Island Institute here to guide them. ER Ambassador's mission, in addition to education, is hands-on restoration. Going out and getting our hands dirty, literally, is such a powerful thing. Not only are we successful at healing ecosystems from trash, invasive weeds, and any other evils we find, but creating an environment for young environmental science and activists to thrive. After long and hard work, being recognized in such a capacity as this award, it means more than I can put into words. When I first heard about the Brower Youth Award, it was via text from my best friend, my mother, who had sent it online while I was running errands. The feeling was mutual that this program checked all of my boxes, a task that I have found is very hard to do. The new leader's commitment to helping the planet in seemingly every way I find quite heartwarming. Look at my fellow awardees, the strong intellect among us, the diversity in our projects, and the vastly different background and identities we hold is something truly unique and extraordinarily special. So I cannot thank the New Leaders Initiative and Earth Island Institute enough for harboring such a powerful mission and letting me be a part of it. Thank you to everyone here today, to the ER Ambassadors, New Leaders Initiative, and Earth Island Institute. I'm looking at you guys, Mona and Susanna, Jeremy Allen, my amazing mentors, Matthew Zeeley, Alana Lerner, Dr. Dawson Scully, and Dr. Brian Ben-Scooter. And of course, my parents. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now it's time to get to work.
I love those words, David. Thank you so much. That was amazing. You're going to be great. I know you're going to be a great positive leader, and we need more of those. And I'm eager to join any movement that you lead, that you create, and learn about that science, because that's very important too. And more importantly, to convey to more people and to educate more people about it. That's so powerful. And that's what we need in order to create positive change. I don't know about all of you, the audience, but I'm getting very excited about all these projects, like listening how these young people use their voices to create change in policy, education, the combination of science and education, how they fight for both environmental, social, and economic justice, how they use their passions and get their hands on research to create change. And now we've arrived to the last project, to the ending almost of this ceremony. And this project excites me too very much. I'm very passionate about this too. And I think that a lot of you might also know this one. I want you to reflect before we present the video of this winner on the products that are in your house, on all the food that is on your fridges, that are on your kitchens. Have you ever reflected on their packaging, on what material they're made of? And more importantly, what do you do with that packaging afterwards? And even more importantly, where does that waste go to? This amazing winner has achieved incredible success in the fight against plastic pollution. And I'm going to present you, and I have the pleasure of presenting you her video. Her name is Alexandria Gordon.
Young folks, my generation especially, are going to be the ones suffering from the worst impacts of climate change, from pollution, from all of it. So it's incredibly important that young people use our very unique experiences on a platform where we can create change that's going to protect our future.
Growing up in Houston, Texas, I was used to the flooding, hurricanes, and awful air pollution. I lived about 15 minutes from a large plastic manufacturing community and became numb to the shelters in place and the familiar sound of fire alarms coming from the plants when something inevitably went wrong. Living there, I didn't fully understand just how terribly the industry was damaging my home through pollution and their contributions to climate change. When I got to college, I was learning about environmental justice and the plastics industry, and can see that my community was right in the middle of this conversation. Although I was no longer in Houston, the plastics crisis was still impacting me. My school, Eckerd, is right on the water. Being outside, kayaking, diving, it's all a part of our campus culture. So when we soon realized you couldn't sit by the water for more than 2 minutes without seeing microplastics, I knew I had to take action for both of the communities that I love. I was a really passionate environmental studies major who just wanted to make a difference, but I had no idea how to actually do that. So freshman year, I got introduced to Florida Perk students at Eckerd's campus, and at the time, the group was just doing voter registration work. I had never done any sort of activism or organizing in that way beforehand, so I got trained in how to register people to vote, and together we worked to increase voter turnout during the 2018 midterms by 350%. So it was really great to see the impact just a small group of students could have on a campus and even in a community. And I knew I wanted to take all of the skills that I had learned from organizing around youth voter turnout to an environmental issue. The Break Free from Plastic campaign works to address the single-use plastics crisis by creating model plastic-free communities on college campuses through training young people and centering student voices on the issue. I started this project with the intention of getting my school, Eckerd College, to commit to phasing out single-use plastics, and it has since grown to tons of other schools across the country, and it's really exciting to see that growth. As the lead on this campaign, I was the point on developing our strategy, identifying key tactics, and general coordination alongside 15 volunteers. Eckerd was then the first school in the nation to implement a policy of this kind. Since running this campaign, I've continued my leadership, working with schools across the nation to develop campaign strategies to commit a wide variety of schools to reduce single-use plastic consumption. This problem is incredibly vast, so our solutions must be bold.
Over the last 4 years, I've seen her grow as a strong, determined activist, passionate about her issues and making real change on them. And not only has she made change herself, but she's also brought up other people with her, allowing them to make change on the issues they care about and become leaders on their campus and throughout their community and the state. She inspires people to work harder for the environment and our planet. In fact, she inspires me every single day to be a better organizer.
The impacts of the single-use plastic crisis affect everyone, but affect low-income and communities of color significantly more. So I want us to get to a point where we can realize that and begin taking action. But I also hope that students across the nation can see the power that they have in their place as college students, as high school students, as young people in general, and can get the training and the support that they need to make an impact in any avenue that they want to.
Throughout history, students have always been at the forefront of movements for change, from civil rights to protecting our environment. The passions of young people have no bounds, and I cannot wait to see the work that we, as the next generation, will be able to accomplish.
Yes, Alexandria. What a great note to end our show on. And now for the final speech, please welcome Alexandria to the stage.
Great. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Alex Gordon. And first, just thank you all for the congrats and the comments. They really mean a lot. And again, like I mentioned in my video, when I first started this work, I had no idea what community organizing meant. I was a freshman in college, a passionate environmental studies major who had just moved from Texas to Florida with really no clear idea of what I wanted to do in college. I only knew that I definitely didn't want to just sit back and learn about the climate crisis, but also do something about it. When I first found Eckerd's Florida Perk Students chapter, I was so excited because I would finally get to do something. I was ready to go out and register people to vote, make higher education more affordable, and stop the worst impacts of climate change. I was excited to tackle the biggest issues of my generation's time on my very small campus. But underneath all of that excitement, I was pretty terrified. Public speaking, talking to people about politics, and actually registering them to vote, these were all things that I had never done before and was really nervous about. What if I made a mistake? What if something went wrong? Or what if I just wasn't very good at this work? Eventually, though, I did find my passion for tackling the plastic pollution crisis, and it all just seemed to click. I could do these things I was pretty terrified of doing and still make a big impact because I had the agency to say yes. But I also had the support of so many people. It's such an honor to be speaking right now because, quite honestly, I never once in my life imagined I would be doing anything remotely like this. So thank you so much to all of the groups and people who have helped get me here. Thank you to the Student Perks staff who spent hours training me and my peers, to the Post Landfill Action Network team for mentoring me throughout my work, to the Break Free from Plastic US team and the Greater Coalition for always amplifying my voice and amplifying the voices of other young people in the plastics movement, and to local community groups here in St. Petersburg, like our local Oceana and Surfrider chapter, for your continued support. I also have to thank my incredible community here at Eckerd, to all of my professors, my incredible friends, and especially to every single volunteer who has ever worked with our Florida Perk Students chapter. We would not be an organization without you all. To the folks who continue to fund the hundreds of students working with the Student Perks across the country, and of course, to my incredible community and family back home in Houston, Texas. Organizing, especially on environmental issues, can be huge campaigns, but also small projects. Working to get communities to phase out non-essential single-use plastics is one way to make a difference, and it's the way that I really enjoy. But at the end of the day, we just need more people, and young people especially, working to combat the problems that we all see in this world. There has never been a large movement for change without young people. So to all of the young folks watching right now, I cannot encourage you enough to take action. Find a group that's doing things that you're passionate about and plug in, or start your own project. We all start somewhere, and if you're watching tonight, you probably already know what grassroots organizing is, and that's a way bigger step above where I was when I first started. To everyone else who's watching right now, this is just a reminder to invest in young people. Support our projects and our ideas, because hopefully, as the 6 people who have spoken here tonight have shown you, that when you do, incredible things can happen. So thank you all again so much for having me here tonight, and especially thank you to the Earth Island Institute for making this award and event possible.
Well, that concludes our show for tonight. Thank you for being here. And before we leave, I'd like to invite you to join us on October 19th, next Tuesday, for the Meet the Winners Q&A. It'll be a chance to ask them questions in the chat and get to know them a little bit on a deeper level. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Diego.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful. It was an honor being here with you tonight. I think also Mother Earth is very grateful with you, as Alexandria said, because the fact that you are here is a great step towards this and climate justice movement that we so desperately need. And before we wish you a good evening, good night, depending on which part of the world you are, we want to invite all the winners once again back to the stage so they can wave you and greet you goodbye. So Alexandria, Sonia, Peter, David, Alexia, and Artemisio, please, we invite you to come back to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.